Can you adapt to shock, or will you withdraw, pushing your limits, or egoic competition, attunement to truth, and what's safe and healthy, fear of the future? These are all pressures that this cycle of the Human Design weather for April 4th to 10th, 2025 will bring. We'll also break out of the emotionality we've had since mid-February by the end of this cycle. Hello there. I'm Margot Fraser, your guide through the cosmic weather. As a certified human design professional and intuitive coach, I'm on a mission to help you know, love, and live the magic of your true nature. In this podcast, Human Design Weather or Not, we'll explore the conditioning influences of the planetary motions, the transit field. You can't avoid the conditioning pressures. You'll probably notice their effects playing out around you. But rather than you reacting and being pulled off track, this awareness will empower you to navigate the cycle, staying true to your authentic nature and taking advantage of the opportunities when correct for you. All right, let's delve into the weather for this cycle. It begins on April 4th at 9:52 a.m. and goes until April 10th at 3:19 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Universal time coordinates, that's April 4th at 3:52 p.m. going until April 10th at 9:19 a.m. Remember to convert that to your own time zone so that you know when it starts and ends for you. We always start with the Sun-Earth activations because that's 70% of the conditioning field. The Sun now is moving into Gate 51, the trait of shock in the ego center. We also call the ego center the heart center. It's a motor that generates or provides willpower. It's the only individual trait in the ego center. All the rest are tribal, and it brings the power to leap out of the homogenization of the tribe and into the unknown. When you leave the tribe, it can be shocking. There are things that you're going to have to navigate, new things that you're going to be initiated into. You're going to find new depths within, or not. This is the heart of the warrior. Its keynote says the ability to respond to disorder and shock through recognition and adaptation. The potential opportunities it brings, well, this is a gate that can bring courage and bravery in making that leap into something new. It's a place where you have the courage to test yourself. Ideally, it's a win-win kind of competitiveness that can be here. It's not a power play. It's competitive with yourself, and it's about rising up and having that courage to develop yourself. When you respond to the shock of the challenge or the new and rise up and adapt, it can be so empowering. This is something that you learn to handle better and better as you gain life experience. The caution here, well, this is the ego. You could find yourself taking foolish risks to prove something to others, especially if you have an undefined heart center. It's white in your chart, a little triangle next to the center diamond. There can also be that lower level competitiveness to win at the expense of the other. There could be withdrawing rather than adapting when something shocking happens. That's not necessarily wrong, by the way. If your strategy and authority is guiding you to withdraw, then that's what you do. But if it's out of the mind's fears, then you'll be missing out of the wisdom that comes through the process. The Earth has moved into gate 57, the trait of intuitive insight in the Splenic Centre, our most primitive awareness center associated with survival, health, and well-being. It's also an individual trait, and individual traits operate in a pulse, in the moment. Its keynote says the extraordinary power of clarity, and it brings an awareness of whether to struggle for clarity or not, to struggle for that knowing or not. Intuitive here means an acoustic knowing in the now. This is a trait that is very, very attuned to frequency. It's the gate of the right ear that hears in the now. It's like the ears of your immune system and lymphatic system that are asking, is this safe or not? Is this healthy for me or not? Is this true or not? So it's not only taking in the sound frequency that through the right ear, it's also a whole body attunement to vibration. The potential opportunity it brings is to experience a pulse of knowing in the now about whether something that you hear or that's in your environment is safe or healthy for you, or whether something that you hear is true or not. You can be much more attuned to those little subtle frequency between the words coming out of someone's mouth, what they're saying, and the underlying tone and pitch, and something's not aligned here. This is not in the ajna. This isn't a gate of the mind. So it's not about making sense or being logical. The caution here is that every gate in the Splenic Centre carries a primal fear. And here it's the fear of the future, the fear of the unexpected, not knowing. And if you feel that within you, if you're really finding that, yeah, I'm carrying some fear about the future, some anxiety. I mean, there is a lot going on in the world right now, a lot of unknowns. It's really a call to come back to the present. That's where this trait operates, in the present. So, a reminder that these individual traits can also pulse into melancholy. It's just part of the natural biochemistry that they carry. So for gate 51, it's the melancholy that there's nothing exciting happening, or that you won't be able to break out of some tribal role, some kind of homogenization, expectations of others. For gate 57, it's the melancholy that comes through whatever it is that you're hearing in the moment. Individual traits are also not here to be influenced by others. So in this cycle, generally, you might find that you just don't want to be interfered with. And others around you, they don't want to be interfered with. So that may play out. We are in these uncertain times, so do your best to allow these individual traits to support you in navigating any shocks and knowing what's safe and healthy for you in the moment. Of course, ultimately, you need to follow your own strategy and authority, but wisdom from these traits can support that. When we look at these two traits together, they could support you in using your acoustic knowing to know what leaps to take to break out of homogenization and be yourself. Or you could know in the now how to adapt to shocks that come in. Or there could be things that are shocking that come in that feed into your fear of the future and what lies ahead. The last one is likely what we'll see happening around us, since most people are living from the not self. So do your best to not get caught up in that. Remember, you've got your strategy and authority to guide you. Let's move into looking at the channels being created this cycle. When the transit field creates a channel, everyone that doesn't already have it in their chart is receiving the activation of the related traits and qualities. So it does have a big impact. Everybody in the world is impacted one way or another. Well, we have one channel that's going to play out through this whole cycle because the sun's position, gate 51, is connecting with Neptune's position, gate 25 in the G center. The G center is associated with love, identity, and direction in life. So it'll be a very powerful channel this cycle with that sun activation being present. Gate 25 is the trait of the spirit of the self, of innocence, of universal love. It's the spirit of the warrior, connecting with the heart of the warrior in gate 51. Together, they create the individual channel of initiation, a design of needing to be first. The potential opportunity is for that pulse of knowing to come through, of what leap into the unknown to take, to stretch yourself, to adapt and land on your feet, initiating you into a new sense of self, coming more deeply into yourself. You might find yourself testing your limits. This can be very empowering. It's part of the centering circuitry that can support you in accepting yourself as you are, which in turn helps you to be centered within yourself. This is a trait that when challenged with who wants to go first is going to step up. Like, we all got to do it. Yeah, let's go. I'll go first. It can also bring a business quality of uniqueness and pushing into new territory, stretching the boundaries. And that can really help an organization stand out from others. The caution, though, and again, what we most often see in the not-self world is being competitive out of the ego, a win-at-all-costs mentality. Throwing caution to the wind in a foolish way. With this channel activation, everyone's going to have the willpower center, the ego center activated. When we look at charts, only 35% of the population actually has the willpower center defined in their chart, something that's consistent and reliable. So yeah, lots of you that are listening probably don't. It'll be white in your chart. And if that's the case, when this energy comes in, you take it in and you amplify it. So you could feel like you have all sorts of willpower and then end up committing to things or making promises that you actually can't keep. When the cycle ends, there it goes. All right. Out of this amplified pressure, there may also be the potential to take foolish risks to prove yourself. So watch for that. Our long-term channel, well, we have had this one long-term channel that came in February and is finally going to go out on April 7th at 2:26 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, Universal Time. That's April 7th at 8:26 a.m. So we're going to get a break from emotionality in the field. We are going to have one little blip with a moon transit, and then we get a break from it being there. So yeah, if you have an undefined emotional center, you might be very happy to hear this. Relief is coming. All right, we've got Jupiter in that gate 35 position, the trait of progress and change in the throat center, connecting with its electromagnetic, the trait of crisis, gate 36 in the emotional center, being activated not only by the north node of the moon, but also Mercury, Venus, Saturn. Whew! That's a lot of crisis. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, together they create the channel of transitoriness, a design of the jack of all trades. The rule of thumb here is to never repeat an experience, but to move from one to another. So there's the transitoriness. We have the emotional center connecting to the throat center. And the emotional center is a motor and an awareness center. So it's dual function. It's our emotional awareness. As a motor, it can be really pushy energy. So it could bring and can bring emotional volatility, all that emotional energy, all those feelings getting up to the throat and expressing themselves. This brings the pressure to enter into a new experience, the pressure to change something in your life. The gate of crisis, gate 36, is about being a novice. And you don't have the experience yet then. So it can bring a sense or a feeling of inadequacy. The potential opportunity, if it's correct for you, according to your strategy and authority, is to enter into a new experience, to move from being a novice to gaining that experience. Maybe you're already in an experience, and this is going to support you in moving to the next phase or bringing it to completion at that gate 35 in the throat center, where you can really articulate the change and the progress and how you felt about the experience. This is a channel where you can share your feelings. It's a channel that can be very creative. And it's a place where you can find all the different ways of experiencing things. Not just the same old, same old. How many different ways can you use a fork? How many different ways can you use a brick? It's a channel that can be very hot, sexually speaking. Let's try something new. And remember that it's totally impersonal. It's all about the experience, even though if you're in the experience with another person, it can seem very personal. The cautions here, well, there can't be any expectations about what the experience will bring. You have to just let it go. There can be the voice of, I'm bored here, until something really new comes along that's intriguing. And then it's the voice of, I feel. And most often, I feel like a change. If you enter into an experience out of the pressure, instead of your strategy and authority, it can bring your not self-theme, frustration, anger, disappointment, bitterness at unmet expectations, or a sense of being stuck. Now, April 7th, yes, Jupiter is going to move on, but that gate of crisis, that trait of crisis, is still going to be in the transit field. It's just that without the channel, not everyone is going to experience it. So the full channel theme is not going to be there. But for a lot of people, there's still going to be the pressure for change. Now, we have one channel being created by the transit of the moon, which means it's just a little taster, a little sampler. The moon only stays activating a gate for about 10 or 11 hours, give or take. This one comes in on April 8th at 7:55 a.m., going until 6:56 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Universal time coordinates, that's April 8th at 1:55 p.m. until April 9th at 12:56 a.m. So yes, just when we thought we were done with emotionality, no, the moon's going to bring it back for one last hurrah in this cycle. So we have the channel of mating, a design focused on reproduction, with the moon moving into gate 59, the trait of sexuality in the sacral center. It's connecting with its electromagnetic gate 6, the trait of conflict and friction in the emotional center. It's being activated by the south node of the moon. This is part of the tribal circuitry that has a theme of mutual support. This channel brings a pressure to reproduce literally and figuratively. It creates a frequency that's very penetrating and can open others to intimacy. That can be very uncomfortable for others sometimes and end up closing them to intimacy. So both polarities can be there. You may find when this is present that you're more open or more closed to intimacy. There's an opportunity with it for creative fertility, for that one-on-one intimacy with others at whatever level that is. The caution here is the connection to the emotional center. It's just a reminder that it does take time to establish intimacy. Emotions go up and down through the wave. Is this relationship going to work out through the ups and the downs? Well, that takes time. Again, whether that's a mate, a friend, a business partner. In any relationship, there is going to be friction and conflict, and that can bring growth and evolution as you work through it. Or it can bring devolution. Things can break apart. But if it's truly not a fit, that's not necessarily a bad thing. All right, that brings us to our long-term transits. The long-term transits are created by the outer planets and the nodes of the moon. They're with us for a longer period of time, years in some cases. So your not self mind can start to think that they're actually part of you because they're there for so long, even when it's not something that you have in your design. And then it's a little like, what's going on? It can be very confusing when that trait disappears out of the transit field. We have that emotionality here with the pressure to enter into the new experience and for change, that channel of transitoriness. We'll have that until April 7th, as we mentioned. Remember that it might not be correct for you to enter into any experience at all. It's all according to your strategy and authority. Now, gate 35, that trait of progress and change in the throat center, is sitting in line 6, called rectification, until April 7th. It has a learning theme that says the energy to correct, and it's going to be in its exaltation, which says progressive change that results from correction. The detriment, even though it's in the exaltation, there's more of a tendency to push to that. The detriment could still play out, which says correction, which brings change through severity and even destruction, and will always meet resistance. Line 6s are always looking for something greater, something beyond their theme. So it's going to want something greater to come out of the change, something more than just the experience. It really wants to know that change is going to bring some kind of correction. This is collective. So what's something better that's going to come out of this? Now, on April 7th, Jupiter is going to move into gate 45, also in the throat center. This is the tribal leadership trait of the gatherer. And it's the only voice of the tribe. It's a voice that says, I have, or I don't have, we don't have. It'll be in line 1, which sets the foundation for the trait. Line 1 always sets the foundation. And line 1's called canvassing. Now here, canvassing means educating and gathering support in doing that. Line 1, its exaltation says the ability to promote and develop gathering together through the education of the uncommitted. The material direction lies in education. The detriment says an overzealousness that turns canvassing into proselytization and tends to alienate rather than support. The drive for material that leads to aggressive education. Well, fundamentally, the tribal leader needs to be of benefit to the tribe and support education of the tribe, the community, the business, because that's going to support the whole tribe in rising up and doing better. Now, this is Jupiter. Jupiter can bring expansion and opportunity of these expressions. So until April 7th, it can be expressing that, hey, you know what? Change for change's sake is just not enough. We want to know that there's going to be something better that comes out of this. Or, as I mentioned, the detriment, correction, which brings change through severity and even destruction that will always meet resistance. Have you been watching the news lately? All right. Well, once Jupiter moves into gate 45, personally, that could be an opportunity to gain support by supporting others for yourself. This is a trait that can be possessive. It's meant to be possessive. It will bring attention to material resources. At the collective level with Jupiter, there could be an expansion of the need to possess. There could be an expansion of education in some way that supports the tribe. Or Since we do often see the detriments play out in the world, we might see leaders that are doing things that bring benefit to themselves, but not to the tribe as a whole, not to the community, the country, the city, whatever it might be, whatever level we're talking about. And in that case, that actually anything that the leader does receive, if it's not benefiting the whole, what they receive is kind of poisoned per se. It usually doesn't go very well in the end. Now, gate 36, the trait of crisis in the emotional center. Again, we've got that quadruple activation, north node of the moon, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, lots of emphasis on crisis, change, the pressure to make change, to enter into an experience. The north node, it's about our perspective and our direction. What do we see when we look out into the world? And yeah, we see crisis, we see change, but it's moved now. It's moved into line 5 called the underground, which could have you seen that no matter what, we can make it through crisis. It's not always easy, but we can do it. Or seeing that when we don't allow change to unfold and jump the gun, it just brings a different type of crisis. It is in the detriment. So seeing people move too quickly in anticipation of getting some kind of expected outcome, yeah, that could be there. Mercury's also in line 5. So there's going to be lots of communication about moving through crisis. Saturn brings a different quality to gate 36. It's about limitation, constraints, discipline, consequences. It's in line 3 that's called transition, and it's in detriment. So if you're not allowing in this line the old to drop away with the required changes, if you're trying to hold on to the old, trying to go back to something, Saturn's going to bring consequences. Change is about moving forward, not going back. So you're going to meet with resistance and transition in that process of going through change. Now, Saturn can also help you to be disciplined in moving through change and the trial and error that goes along with moving through change and gaining experience. The south node of the moon has to do with what's in our environment. It's in gate 6, the trait of conflict and friction. And on April 2nd, it moved out of line 6 with its theme of the peacemaker. We had that for quite a long period of time. Now it's moved into line 5 called arbitration. So let's see what this brings on the world stage. It has a developmental theme that we learn with maturity over time that says the faith derived from analytical diligence and emotional control that permits a higher authority to judge a conflict. In its exaltation, it says harmony furthered through the avoidance of direct conflict. The detriment is insensitivity to the concerns of others in a conflict, where a party to arbitration sees itself as the best possible judge and will only accept judgment if it is the victor. Well, again, out there in the world, we tend to see the detriments playing out there. But personally for yourself, if there's a situation that does need arbitration, having this frequency there could be really supportive. Uranus position is in gate 8, the trait of individual contribution in the throat center. It could bring an unusual contribution to the whole through you. There could also be a fear of loss of individuality here too, because once you make your individual contribution, once that's shared, well, it's not yours anymore. Other people can be taking it up. Neptune sitting in that gate 25 that we've talked about, that individual trait of spirit of the self, of innocence and universal love, or the polarity. It's moved into line 3 called sensibility, with a developmental theme that says the recognition that innocent action does not in itself guarantee success. Yeah. This is a lesson that Neptune could veil from you, or it could unveil that lesson. There can be a resilience here that really allows you to withstand failure and not let it negatively impact you. Have this kind of certainty, this centeredness in yourself, that it doesn't throw you off. Yeah, sometimes things don't work out. In its detriment, though, there can be a real loss of the spirit and innocence through the trial and error process that all third lines go through. That could lead to depression. It could lead to people taking criminal action, that type of thing. They've just really lost their spirit. You know, all the things that come out of the inability to accept failure and taking it very personally. Pluto sitting in gate 41, the trait of contraction and decrease, part of the abstract experiential circuitry in the root center. It's the gate of daydreaming and fantasizing about the next experience that you want to have. It's sitting in line 2 called caution, that says humanism tempered by pragmatism, being practical. So you can fantasize here about wanting to help others. It's a collective trait, but not actually take any action on that. Or you could want others to recognize your feelings and dreams for humanity and share that in the expectation that you're going to get some kind of recognition or pat on the back out of that. Remember, for any of these traits that you don't have in your own design, it's just pressure from the transit field. You can observe it playing out around you, you can learn from it, but whether there's anything for you to do out of it comes from your own strategy and authority. So don't let it run you or puppet you. All right, that brings us to the end of the cosmic weather for this cycle. If you want to run your own chart, you can go to jovianarchive.com. And if you're new to human design and you just want to understand the basics of the body graph at a high level, what's the black and the red about, the different geometric shapes, a bit of background on the system, you can grab my free Human Design Basics mini course. It's at margotgfraser.com/human-design. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would be very grateful if you could give it a like and consider subscribing. All right, well, we break out at emotionality by the end of this cycle. Woohoo! There will be that opportunity to take courageous leaps into the unknown, stretching your limits, being very attuned to what's safe and healthy for you in the moment, and being able to learn and adapt to any shocks. Watch for being overly competitive and trying to prove yourself. Watch for any anxiety or fear of the future that comes in. Remember that if that happens, do your best to come back to the present and allow the attunement and be open to the support in the transit field for adapting to shocks and to change, even when the not self world around you might seem to be very chaotic and fearful. Stay present to what's coming through your strategy and authority. Okay, well, have a wonderful cycle. Be kind to one another, and may you know, live, and love the magic of your true nature. Until next time, bye for now.